Welcome back to another episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker Fan Podcast, where we try to be sweet, but sometimes we get salty. I am your host, Ken.
And I am your host, Scott.
And we're joined by a couple of other guys who host a Husker Fan Podcast, namely Bryan from the Husker Army Podcast. What's going on, Bryan?
Oh, same old. You know, we talked about a loss. We're talking about head coaches. Now we're talking about outside coaches.
And Andrew, buddy, what's going on from the Big Red and More Podcast? Why in the hell didn't your partner in crime, Jaden, show up tonight? I mean, I'm sure he's got a good reason, but Husker football has got to be the best reason to hang out and talk to other Husker fans, right?
Right. Yeah. No, he had to go make the kids supper. So wife was going to do it. She's not feeling good. So he had to go make the kids supper. So,
well, what we're here to do is continue a discussion we started on the Husker Army podcast here tonight, where we talked about the pros and cons of Mickey Joseph being named the permanent head coach at Nebraska. Why don't we get into, guys, what we think the future of or at least what we hope the future of the Husker football program is. And as I said earlier, I put out, set up a group text between the 8 people that were supposed to be involved in this chat, and we all ranked our top 5 selections for the future head coach at Nebraska. And here's how I chose the top 3, because we all put in 5, but we had to end up with 3. Otherwise, we'd be here all night.
Oh, God.
And maybe we still will be, because who gives a shit at this point in the day? All panelists in here provided their top 5 candidates in order of preference to prevent a tie among multiple panelists choosing the same coach. Each one was given a point rating based on the order of preference. Coaches ranked number 1 were valued at 5 points, and every coach from 2 through 5 were decreased by a point value each. Points were compiled, determining the top 3. Among the 16 people who got votes, these are the coaches and how they were ranked on their most votes. Lane Kiffin got 7, and we all know that dude is probably staying in the SEC, but we're going to talk about him anyway. Urban Meyer got 5. Screw that guy. I don't want him here at Nebraska. Call me a wacko who thinks that doing things the right way is something you should do. I just don't want Urban Meyer here. Matt Rule was in 3rd place along with Lance Leipold, but based on the way everybody placed those guys in their list of top 5, Matt Rule won out and got more votes than Leipold did. But what's weird is with Kyle Whittingham with 3 votes, he still got more points overall than Lance Leipold or Chris Kleiman got. Go figure. Dave Aranda came in with 3, Brett Bielema with 2, and then Campbell, Doran, Fickle, Flores. Drunk Monk is the guy that put in Brian Flores. Did you guys look him up?
Who the hell is Brian Flores?
Like a linebacker coach at fucking Steelers.
Really?
Yeah. And then Hypo with 1. I think that was Kenny did that then he didn't show up.
No.
So
no, that'd be me. I put
okay,
Hypo
that was Hypo. That was you. And then Chip Kelly and Cliff Kingsbury were Kenny. Andrew, go ahead. Talk about your top 5.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, guys. My AirPods.
He's back.
Sorry, my AirPods are low battery, so I was trying to struggle to find another ones really quick in case they die on me.
You're all good, dude.
So yeah, Lane, number 1. I just feel like he's the best option out there, realistically. I think he knows how to adapt to what players he has rather than just trying to hammer in his own system no matter what. And that's just the way it is. So he's not black and white. He's very adaptable, heavy emphasis on the lines. So that's why he's my number 1. Urban, say what you want about him, wins. You know what I mean? And I'm at the point to where I just want to win. Rule, I like the fact that I think he can take over a program and do well with it. You know, Dave Doran's my real big under the radar guy because thank you, babe. He's my big under the radar guy because I feel like he's a heavy emphasis on what we need for the Big Ten. Ground and pound, dirty work, dirty style of play. Lunch pail type of team. And then Dion. I mean, could you imagine Dion and Mickey together on the recruiting trail? It would be absolutely unreal. So pop out just for a sec, switch headphones, and then I'll be right back in.
Alrighty, Bryan. Drop some knowledge on us on your top 5 over the next minute or two.
Okay, I'm kind of going to go out of order as to how my guys are in there because I've got a little bit to say about Lane Kiffin. I mean, let's think about this. Andrew's right. Deion Sanders and Mickey Joseph together, that would be a match made in heaven. I don't know if Deion quite has the resume that Trev is looking for. I highly doubt it is. So Deion's probably not on Trev's list. Lance Leipold, I have him there for the simple fact of the job he has done with Kansas this season alone has been outright a miracle. I mean, he has done something in a matter of one season that Les Miles couldn't do in one season. It's amazing to me that Kansas is going bowling, and I believe they won their first 6 games, were bowl eligible, the fastest they've been since 2007.
Yes.
Now, Urban Meyer, his resume speaks for itself. Look, I'm right there with you, Ken. When Scott was fired, people were calling for Urban. I was one of the ones that said, no. Are we willing to sacrifice our morals for wins? The way the rest of this season is played out, I'm with Andrew now. Yes, I will sacrifice a little bit of my morals to get some fucking wins. Matt Rule, we talked about that, you and I, on Twitter. The job he did at Temple is outstanding. Nobody cared who the hell Temple was. That was an automatic W on anybody's schedule before he came there. Then to look at what he did, taking over the huge mess at Baylor after Art Briles, that was no small feat in itself right there. So he has shown that he can come into a horrible fucking situation and be able to pull this shit together and do something with a pile of shit and polish it into somewhat of a diamond, or at least a glance of a diamond.
Right.
Now, Lane Kiffin. Holy shit, where do I begin? All right, so the longest stint he's had so far is spending 6 years at USC as offensive coordinator. Then after that, becomes head coach of the Raiders for 2 asterisk seasons, because in 2007 goes 4-12, goes 1-3 in 2008. They fire his ass after 4 games. Gone. Then he becomes head coach of Tennessee for 1 season, goes 7-6, left for the next job in the middle of recruiting. That's a big deal for me. Okay? Leaves, goes to USC for 4 seasons, goes 29-20. Then he goes to Bama as offensive coordinator for another 3 seasons. Keep that number in mind. 3 seasons. After being offensive coordinator at Bama, becomes head coach at Florida Atlantic for 3 seasons, goes 26-13. Very reputable record, put Florida Atlantic on the map. Then becomes now head coach of Ole Miss since 2020. He is in his 3rd season. He is right now 23-10.
Right.
Now let's think about this. Like I said, 3rd season. And now what are we hearing? He's ready to leave. I'm not so sure I want a guy here that shows on his resume that he's willing to spend 3, maybe 4 seasons. Then he's willing to find somewhere new.
Right.
It scares me.
I completely agree. So he's still your number 1, though, just based on what he's done, right?
Yeah, he could get wins right away. And is he going to probably take off if he comes here? Which, couldn't find out. He's probably not. Probably going to stick around the SEC, hopefully. But if he were to come here, maybe he gets us some wins and brings us back up, and whoever comes in wouldn't have such a mess to take over.
So Here's mine. Starting from number 5, like you did, Bryan, which is probably smart. And I'm too cool from school, so I'm gonna just do this. My number 5 is Chris Kleiman. Mostly because over the last few weeks, that dude has figured out how to kick the living out of Oklahoma State, 48-0. I think he beat Baylor in that time too, without Adrian Martinez. And Adrian went out in the first quarter of that Baylor game, left, and the guy came in behind him, Will Powers or whatever his name was, Will Power, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, they haven't skipped a beat, because you know what Chris Kleiman and his quarterback coach can do? And develop a fucking backup. Lance Leipold is my second, my number 4 guy, just because what he did he left Buffalo better than than it was when he left. He left, obviously, Wisconsin Whitewater after winning 17 national freaking championships in a row or something like that. Goes to Buffalo, makes him better, and leaves him better than when he left. And obviously, he's only going to make Kansas better. They're going to be a hard out for anybody that plays them every single week in the Big 12. Hey, hasn't that been what we've been wanting at Nebraska, as being a hard out for anybody that plays us? Granted, there's been games over the last 2 years where we've been a hard out, but they knew all they had to do was stick to it until the fourth quarter, and they would beat us.
Mm-hmm.
They knew they would beat us. With a Leipold coach team, they wouldn't know that for sure. In my opinion, they wouldn't know that. Kyle Whittingham, which we'll get into a little bit deeper. Well, no, we won't, because he's not in the top 3. But for me, for his 19 years at Utah, because he's been the only coach at Utah since Urban Meyer left to go coach Florida. And all he's done is go to, what has he been there? 19 years. He's gone to 11 bowl games. He's won 9 of them. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing to make a football team tough to beat. And he's been almost better in the Pac-12 than he was when they were in the Mountain West, I think it was, before they got to the Big 12 or the Pac-12. So the guy knows how to coach, knows how to teach a team to win, and they do it up front, which is where Nebraska has to get better. Lane Kiffin is my number 2, namely because he's been really good at Ole Miss. And the reason he's been really good at Ole Miss is because he was really good as an offensive coordinator at Alabama. He spent 4 years, 6 years at USC.
Yeah, 6 at USC.
As a 3 years as an offensive coordinator and 4 years as a head coach or something like that. So he did well while he was there. And then 3 years at Alabama, which were 3 of the more prolific years as an offensive coordinator, because Nick Saban had no desire to morph into the spread offense until Lane got there. And Lane said, you've got to go here. If you don't go here, you're going to be the Arkansas of the SEC West. And he convinced him. And he won, 2 national championships, I think, as an offensive coordinator over 3 years. So that says something. And he's been really, really good at Ole Miss after his stint at Florida Atlantic. I just, as a self-respecting human being, I can't keep sunglasses on any longer than 10 minutes. My number 1 is Matt Rule. Not because of his NFL resume, because he really doesn't have one, but because of what he was able to do at Temple. Nobody won at Temple. There was a couple of guys 2 or 3 years before he got there that got them to 8 wins, but nobody, as far as I could see, as far back as I went, won 10 games at Temple. Nobody won 10 games at Temple. He won 10 games in the conference they were in before they went to the AAC. And then what did he do when he got to the AAC? He won 10 games the first year he was there. That was with UCF. That was with USF. That was with all those really good teams down there in Florida. He still won 10 games. And then he goes to Baylor after the dumpster fire that was the Art Briles area with 45 scholarship football players. 45. He brought 3 in, I think, if I remember right. 3 scholarship football players on scholarship came in his first year. Granted, they went 1-11. Who wouldn't go 1-11 with 45 scholarship players, except for maybe Bill O'Brien? and then the next year he went 6-7, 7-6, something like that. And then he goes 10-3 after a bowl game in his third year, and then he goes up to the NFL. So give me Matt Rule all day long, because that guy knows how to develop kids. He knows how to get kids to play for him. Maybe it didn't work in the NFL, but really, how many entitled millionaires give 6 shits from Sunday about a dude who won 19 games at Baylor? Not too many. But I think if he would have gone to Carolina 2 years later after he won 40 games at Baylor, they might have listened. So that's my top 5. I know I totally took over the stream here for a little bit, but
well, you had to get out your thoughts. I mean, give your frame of reference and your logic, and I mean, you articulated it very well.
I rambled on for like 5 minutes.
Ken, you're like Bryan on his last episode. Don't forget, this is your podcast. You can take it over.
I'm the honky of the Gen Red podcast. That's what I'm saying.
That makes me boomer then, I guess.
Scott, there you go. You've got a name in your top 5, Scott, that none of us have.
Wow.
And that would be your number 2 guy. But go ahead and start at number 5 and give your reasoning.
All right, disclaimer. I have 0 reasoning. I have put 0 thought into this because I don't give a f***. I can put a lot of thought into Mickey Joseph because he's actually here. And I feel like even though I know my words hold approximately as much weight as helium. So the reason why I didn't put, I honestly didn't put any thought into this. I just picked names because of what was going on in their past, sort of what's going on currently, sort of little bit of forethought. Because before my top 5 was just memes. I mean, I did like Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, shoot, I don't even remember. I just put a bunch of names that I was like, I don't give a shit. Just put these names down. So my number 5 is Matt Rule for honestly the same reasons my dad has explained. You know, he did some good things at Temple. He did some good things at Baylor. Did he have a successful stint in the NFL? No, he did not. But I mean, there aren't very many college coaches in recent era that just go to the NFL after having a successful coaching career in college and do well. It doesn't often translate very well.
Especially ones that don't have a quarterback.
Yes, exactly. Having no, that's not a good way to start your NFL career. I got him in at number 5 just because I don't know, just put him there, I guess. I got Lance Leipold at number 4 because I mean, hell yeah, let's make Kansas make Kansas great again. You know, like let's make the Jayhawks look pretty decent. Okay, even though they've had a rough couple of weeks, rough few weeks really. I mean, I think they've lost 3 or 4 in a row now, but it is what it is. I mean, they're still going to go bowling, which is, you could say a lot about that considering we haven't been bowling in like 6 years. But yeah, so I got Lance Leipold at number 4. Love the dude. Love what he did at Buffalo. I got Kyle Whittingham at number 3 for the exact same reasons my dad stated. I mean, he's had sustained, reliable success at Utah. Has he gone and just blown the whole world up, gone undefeated? No. But he's maintained consistent success. He's gone bowling, more than 50% of his seasons there. Like Dad said, has had, multiple 10-win seasons. Is competitive with everybody in the Pac-12. I mean, they're going toe-to-toe with everybody. Yeah, do they have some bad games every once in a while? Yeah, but that happens. So I've got Kyle Whittingham. Is he realistic? Probably not. Like, definitely a long shot. But whatever. I mean, if he were to come here and retire and just at least build our program as like a transition, a transitory coach, show up, start the process of building, lay a good foundation, and then move on, that's okay with me, I guess. Which that leads me to number two.
Wouldn't you kind of argue that's all we're really looking for out of Urban too, for everyone that wants Urban? Like, do you realistically see him staying here more than, 5 years or so and just coming in, kind of building it up and leaving too?
Yeah. And that's what I actually had Urban in, like I said, I had him in my original top 5 memes. Dave Aranda's who I got number 2. I picked him as my number 2 because he's bald and looks cool. Number 1, I've got Lane Kiffin. Same thing. He could just build a program and then peace out and at least lay a good foundation. And I'll just go right back around full circle. The reason why I said I don't really give a shit is because it's like, I know what we've got with Mickey, so I can talk about it. There's a million options. There's so many coaches to choose from. It changes the ebb and flow of what is going on in the coaching carousel. It changes week to week. There's the new flavor of the week with coaches, and everybody just dives deep into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't want to waste my time with that because ultimately Trev's going to pick a guy, whether it's Mickey or somebody else. He's going to pick a guy. And then I can dive deep into it and be like, okay, this is what we got going on. Because why in the world would I spend all of my time and energy looking at 20 to 30 different coaching candidates, diving deep and figuring out what their past is and all the nuances of their strengths and weaknesses and where they've been and what they've done or not done, when I could just not do all of that and just wait for the next guy to get hired and then really dive deep, put my tinfoil hat on and see where the fuck it's going to go crazy.
Because to your point, it's redundant and almost a waste of a time until we know something official. You could drive yourself go crazy thinking about all the different scenarios and, everybody's different backgrounds and everything like that. I think very fair to your point there, Scott, is like, we have lives, you know what I mean? Like, it may not necessarily mean it or seem like it all the time, but we do have other shit to do in our lives besides spend all day looking at the million different scenarios that could play out.
There was a time I sat down and was like, okay, I'll go through the list. And I was like, no, damn it. I told myself I was not going to do this. I'm not fucking doing it. Do something else, write lyrics, go to the gym, watch a Netflix series, Better Call Saul, just do anything other than the thing that you said you weren't going to do because I'm a man of my word. And I don't want to waste any of my time or energy on this. This is bullshit. So that's basically what I did. And I also kind of want to just add a little bit of spice and flavor to the podcast. So that's pretty much what I did. And yeah, sue me, I guess. I'll call Saul, that's what I'll do. Cause I watched
Great show.
Freaking phenomenal. I'm so glad I waited until all of it had concluded and then immediately started binge watching it. Cause it just like, I could just, I had to purchase the last season so I could watch it. Which I was okay with doing. Cause here you go, Vince Gilligan and whatever, the writers of that show, phenomenal. I'll give you my money. But yeah, nope, that's basically it. I'm really excited. Like, I'm really excited for whoever comes down the pipeline and whoever whoever shows up, as long as it isn't like a Mike Riley, somebody just way out in left field. That's just like, yeah, we hired the coach from
who's your disappointing coach then?
UConn. We hired the UConn coach because
that's Jim Mora. Jim Mora actually wouldn't be too bad, but I get what you're saying. Who would be your deflated, so disappointed hire? Like, is there a name out there that's disappointing to you? Like, say, I'm not saying they are for me. I'm just throwing out names like Jeff Monken from Army, Jim Calhoun from Air Force. I don't know why I keep saying military academies right now,
man.
But is
for the soldiers, man. What the heck?
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah,
just kidding.
Way to shit on the Husker Army podcast, Andrew.
You know what I mean? Who is your? Well, I am Big Red and More too, so whatever. I have to shit on people. Little inside joke there.
Well played,
but anyway,
brother. Well played.
Who would be your Mike Riley hire? Where you're like, who? Because you remember when Mike Riley got hired, most of us had to go Google that. And the only thing that got my blood flowing for him was Brandon Cooks. How Cooks was recruited as a safety or something, and then turned him into a first round draft pick, and he was tearing up the league at that time for the Saints. So I talked myself into Riley because of that one reason. But who is your would be your Mike Riley hire?
Well,
go ahead, Bryan. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, where could you begin? Like you said, when they hired Mike Riley, the only thing I knew about him is he was Oregon State's head coach for a long time. What have I known about Oregon State my entire life? They suck.
Yep.
Once in a while, they'll get a good win over USC or Oregon. But other than that, they are not consistently making bowl games. I knew that as a child. So when they hired him, as I did with Callahan, and as a fucking Husker fan that I am, I said, it, let's give the guy a try. It ain't my choice.
More resources, more money to play with, a better recruiting budget.
Yeah, we try and talk yourself into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Knowing that Trev has got that talent agency helping out, I would think they're not going to go get somebody that is, I hate to say this because I have him on my list, like a Deion Sanders, because he's just a name, not a proven coach.
Commodity in the Power Five. Yep.
Yes, because I don't think we're going to make another Mike Riley experiment mistake.
Nope.
I don't see Trev making that type of move.
That was more of an overcorrection for Bo because of Peterson. And
personality as opposed to the coach.
And also at the time,
Mr. Rogers.
And also at the time for us getting rid of Bo, I want to go there. We got a lot of no's because of it. It's like, well, if they're firing him for his record, what the hell are they going to do to me?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair to Mike Riley, and I am not one that wants to be fair to Mike Riley, but he had more top 10 wins as a Husker football head coach than Scott Frost did.
One.
Doesn't that suck?
Dad, who would be your out and left field coach hire that you'd be like, what?
That's right. You and Andrew did, right?
Brian and Andrew, I never answered.
I didn't give mine yet. You guys all go ahead.
Out of left field hire for me would be good heavens, that's a good question. That's a really good question. For me, the out and left field hire would be Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach. If he was hired in to run a spread offense here, as long as we got an offensive line and a defensive line coach that could make sure that people hated playing us every week, I have no problem with Cliff Kingsbury being an offensive coordinator. But a head coach, that noise. Don't want that guy. that would be my outside of the box. So love you, Kenny, but you're wrong on this. Go ahead. Who's next? Is that Scott?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, well, if I haven't put a lot of thought into potential coaching hires, and I clearly haven't put any thought into what would be out in left field, but there is one name that is always just for the memes been stuck in my head, living rent free, that if it were to ever happen, I would just go into catatonic failure of life. Because if we were to hire somebody like Hugh Freeze, I don't like, I understand he's doing some good things at Liberty. Like, that's awesome. But there would be no worse omen that you could ever ask for Husker football than to go from a coach named Frost to a coach named Freeze and expect anything successful to come of it.
Let me get this out real quick before my headphones die. My Mike Riley hire, like disappointing hire, would be Craig Bull.
Oh, good one.
Yep.
Craig Bowl.
It's just like you might as well hire Mickey over him because it's like way to take a step completely back. You know what I mean? If you think we take a step forward and 2 steps back all the time now, that would be like leaping decades behind. So that would be the most disappointing hire to me.
Wyoming head coach. Yeah.
Was our defensive coordinator in 2002, which is why Bill Pelini got here. Yep.
Anybody remember that Colorado game in 2001?
Oh God.
Well, Craig Bull was the one who started North Dakota State's run.
Yeah, he did. He did a great job at North Dakota State.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people like him is because he took North Dakota State off and running in their little dynasty in D2 and then went to Wyoming and had Josh Allen. So then everybody's kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe Craig Bull and stuff. I'm like, get the out of my face with that.
Hey, dude, Andrew, why don't you tell us how you really feel about Craig Bull? I'm pretty sure
I hate it.
I almost said Jaden because it says, Big Red and More too. Sorry, I didn't know you just changed it.
Yeah, I did get that right after the last episode. So
yeah, that's a good one, Andrew. And going back to the episode we just did before this, how I said I got a soft spot for former players. I don't have a fucking soft spot for former coaches.
There it is.
If you were here, but you're no longer here coaching, I don't want your ass back here.
Yeah. I mean, what's he going to do? Bring Charlie McBride on staff and Barry Alvarez, let's settle down.
Pelini was a different story because everybody wanted him.
Oh, yeah. Callahan for offensive line coach. Now that I would take in a fucking heartbeat.
Best freaking offensive line coach that
could you imagine? Think about this. Ultimate former Husker coaches coming together to form a dream team coaching. You have Frost as your coordinator. You have Callahan as your offensive line coach. You have Pelini as your D coordinator. You have maybe Carl Pelini as your defensive line. Or like Charlie McBride or, one of those guys coming back in. You got Barry Alvarez coming back. Like
linebackers.
Well, obviously you got T.O. as the head coach, right?
Keep Mickey Joseph as the wide receivers coach.
Yeah. Where do you put Bob Devaney in there?
No, you bring Frank Solich back as a running backs coach or Ron Brown.
Perfect.
Elevate Ron Brown to running backs coach because nobody ran angrier than Burkhead and Abdullah when he was running backs coach. Those guys ran pissed off every game. I love
Burkhead was one of the nicest kids ever.
Yep. But he didn't want to see the other uniform on the other side of the line from him. He was going to run that over. That's how he
always fell forward.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
See, I just got an idea for my next podcast. The Husker
Dream Team.
Yeah.
Guys, real quick. Andrew, what do you think the final score next week against Iowa is going to be? I know you haven't recorded your show yet. So
27-24, fuck Iowa.
Oh, Nebraska wins 27-24?
27-24, fuck Iowa. I'll never pick Iowa to win ever.
Iowa's
no matter what.
Sucks.
They could be on the verge of national champions, and I'll never fucking pick them to win against us.
God dang it, Dad. You know what I just realized? Hold on a second. I had said from the beginning of our podcast I would never pick Iowa to win.
Yeah, well, you did.
I fucked that up today.
Yep,
oops.
You did.
Scott, what the
All right, well, that's it. I quit.
Hey, maybe they're going to win.
Now we'll probably win. Yeah.
Maybe they're going to win now. Yeah. How about you, Brian? What do you think for Iowa, Nebraska? What's the final?
Okay. Final score. I think this is going to play out like it did in 2009 against Oklahoma and Lincoln. It's going to be very, very low scoring. I'm talking possibly 13-10 or 10-7 Nebraska.
So, Andrew, where can folks find you guys on social media?
Yeah, you can find me at Big Red and More 2 on Twitter. Big Red and More Podcast.
Big Red and More 1.
Yeah, Jaden. But yeah, if you like people that don't get on their Twitter, you can go check him out. He's got some good retweets.
He's got some good retweets, man.
Yeah, but no, Big Red and More on Facebook, and then on all podcast platforms. Ours always drops Wednesday. We record Wednesday night, so it always drops. If you're subscribed or whatever, you'll get it the night before. We always post it Thursday morning on Facebook or Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So
they can find you at Big Red and More on all the podcast apps out there, right?
Yep. Cool. And it's spelled out. The "and" is spelled out. Yep.
Okay. How about you, Bryan? Where can folks find you?
Pretty simple to find us. Twitter, Instagram, at Husker Army Pod. YouTube, Husker Army Podcast. Just Google us. It pops right up. Anywhere you find audio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Buzzsprout. Remember the damn thing this time. Unbelievable. So, yeah, it's pretty simple to find us. Of course, you guys follow Kenny Cheatham. Husker Noop 1911.
It's a good follow. Scott, where can folks find you on social media?
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at ScottGenRedPod. That's Scott with 2 T's. The second T is silent. And that's pretty much all. That's pretty much everywhere you can find me. I mean, you can find me on Facebook if you want, but really all I do there is just post memes, and that's where I get my politics. So if you don't want politics, stay off my Facebook.
Yeah, don't.
But yeah. So Twitter, politics free, only Husker stuff, and occasionally I retweet dad jokes, even though I'm not a dad. I just find them funny, and I take after my dad. So. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. And Dad, where can everyone find all of our other shit?
Well, if you go to our website at genredpod.com, GENREDPOD.com, click the links at the top of the page, and you will be able to find our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube information. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for all of our past content, and then ring that bell so that you don't miss anything that we do in the future, including this stream, which will drop Tuesday night at 5:30. The audio show will drop Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. And make sure you like this video too, as it helps get this stream out to more Husker fans. The audio version of this show will be available for download on your favorite podcast app. Just search for Generation Red, subscribe, and then please take a few minutes to leave us a rating and a review. It also helps folks find our show on their favorite podcast app. If you like it, you rate it, and you review it. We will be doing our next show on the 27th of November at 7:30 in the evening to review the Iowa game, which I'm not sure is going to be a lot of fun to do, but we're going to do it anyway. And until next time, folks, he is Scott, and he's my son, in whom I am extremely well pleased. I am his dad, Ken. Together, we're not just Generation Red. Actually, the most important thing, we're family. And we're here to remind you every single week that there is no place like Nebraska.
Iowa's corn sucks dick, and go Big Red.
Yeah!
What do you say, boys? What do you say?
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
Absolutely. Hey, hang out, boys. We can talk a little bit in a post show chat. We'll see you in a bit.